Okay, good afternoon, and thank you very much for being here. For us, it's a great pleasure to be hosting this event. We have an extraordinary panel. Each one of the panelists is an expert in this area. For us at NED, dealing with security issues throughout the region, I mean, Central America, but not only Central America, has become one of our main focus, and we are developing or supporting many organizations and programs that are trying to deal with this very complex issue from a truly democratic perspective. Of course, while dealing with security issues, the armed forces, police forces become a main actor. And if we want to deal with this issue from a truly democratic perspective, but also include armed forces and police forces, we are actually facing a very tense and a very, let's say, complex relationship. So in order to try to understand this relationship and to see to how each one of the countries in the region and how from a regional perspective this issue is being tackled, we have convened this excellent, very prestigious group of experts in this issues. So without further comment, and you will have the opportunity to hear each one of them, I'd like to just introduce our panelists for this afternoon. So in order of presentation, I'll start with Marcela Donadillo, who is the Executive Secretary of the Latin American Security and Defense Network, RESDAL, and she's a current NET grantee. I mean, we are really proud of having Marcela and RESDAL as one of the organizations we've been supporting for a nice number of years already. And we're very proud of her work and RESDAL's work. Marcela has authored several publications on security and defense, which have appeared in national and international journals. She currently directs RESDAL's project, including Comparative Atlas of Defense in Latin America, Women in the Armed Forces and Police in Latin America, a gender-based approach to peacekeeping operations. Among her publications, there is also Institutional Strengthening of Public Security in Central America and Military Training and Education, the Future Officers of and Democracy. Many people ask me, how come such a nice and sweet person is involved in this very complex and issues, but you'll hear how well she deals with these issues. So thank you, Marcela, for coming here and for being like the main force behind this event. Our second speaker is Javier Melendez, who is also or was also one of our very good grantees in Nicaragua. Javier founded the Institute for Strategic Studies and Public Policies, that's Instituto de Estudios Estratégicos y Políticas Públicas, IEP, which is an independent Nicaraguan think tank. We are still working, we are still supporting their work in Nicaragua, and again, we are very proud of their work and their high quality and expertise in all their achievements. Javier has led investigations on security sector reform in Nicaragua and throughout Central America. He has also served as an advisor to the Nicaraguan Defense Ministry and helped to organize the citizen consultation process for the white paper on Nicaragua's defense and national security. So welcome, Javier, and we're very pleased to have you here. Our next speaker is Juan Rial. I don't want to say for how long I've met Juan. We know each other for a while. And it's also a delight to have Juan here. He's a very well-known expert throughout the region. Juan is also a member of RESDAL and has ample experience in security and democracy. For 10 years, he worked as the co-coordinator of the Civil-Military Relations in Latin America project involving the American University and Peito. He has worked on various transitions to democracy in Central America for international organizations. And he combines expertise in the Southern Cone with his expertise in Central America, so he has a very rich and broad perspective of these issues. So thank you, Juan, for being here. Welcome. And our final speaker is Steve Johnson, who's also a good friend of Ned and many of us here. He's the director of the Americas program at the Center of Strategic and International Studies. From 2007 to 2009, Mr. Johnson served as Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Western Hemisphere Affairs. Steve has overseen the development and execution of policies, strategies, and programs governing hemispheric defense and security ties, involving 2 regional combat commands and 3 military academic institutions. As a member of the Air Force Reserve, he served in the Office of Public Affairs of the Secretary of the Air Force and at the U.S. Southern Command. So again, Steve, thank you very much for being here and welcome. So after that, I think you have already realized that we have a pretty impressive panel for this afternoon. So again, welcome to all of you, and now I turn the floor to Marcela. We estimate that each one of you have like 15 minutes for your presentation, and after that we'll have a session of Q&A.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everybody. Sorry for my English. You'll have to stand that. Thank you, Miriam, and thank you to the National Endowment for this opportunity. As she already said, we are a grantee from the National Endowment, and I must recognize that they really like challenges and bet on some grantees that can do things different from another ones. I am here representing a network, but I am not the actual beginner of the RESDAL. We have 2 persons here, Dr. Luis Goodman and Mr. Juan Real, who had, with other 5 people, the idea of creating a network in all Latin America and with members also from the United States and Canada and Europe to discuss and to deal with the security and defense issues in this region. So they approached the National Endowment and then received this grant to create a network that right now is composed of 300 members. I also should recognize the members of the network that are here, who is Javier and Mr. Johnson also. And these members are both scholars and practitioners, so we have a really very good approach to official institutions and to gather several data. What I'm going to present today is like a combination of a work we have done along the years, which is a comparative atlas on defense. Some of you have that with you. And a new publication we are going to release on July, also with support from the National Endowment, regarding public security institutions in 3 countries of Central America, El Salvador, Guatemala, and Honduras. I'm going to be brief to present you some ideas because we are here to discuss the role of the armed forces regarding insecurity in Central America, so I'm going to address 5 brief points on this regard. I'm only showing some charts and some graphics to you in order to make a context for what I'm going to say. The points I will try to address are these. The first one is to tell that the role of the armed forces is a major one. They are a leading actor in display in Central America. The second point is why is that? And if it's driven by historical causes or if there are some other components that we should take into account. Third, which the situation is with the other institutions that are supposed to deal with public security, mainly the police institutions. 4, what are the armed forces actually doing? And finally, which the prospects are for international cooperation. As you must see, it's a lot for 15 minutes, so I'm going to be passing several things. I will present the data you are going to see is taken from, is taken from the comparative atlas and from the new publication that we are releasing in July. This data is also gathered through cooperation with official institutions and with the members of the network. In the case of the study of Central America and the figures you are going to see, we conducted more than 100 interviews in these three countries with ministries of government, of public security, with the police, and of course, with the armed forces. What you are seeing here is the components of the new Central America strategy. Last week, there was a conference held in Guatemala. I don't know if you're aware of the existence of an integration mechanism called SICA, which is the system of Central America integration. They have been working on a Central America strategy, and every president in the region was present at this conference last week. They are 7 countries. They also had the presence of the President of Mexico and the President of Colombia. And from the US, Secretary Clinton was there too. They have made this strategy, and as you may see, they are especially thinking on these areas, combating crime, violence prevention, and institutional strengthening. And I want you to make this point, look at the numbers of what they are previewing they need for this strategy, and look to the $30 million to institutional strengthening. So what I'm going to argue after this is that we need especially to work on institutional strengthening, unless we want to be speaking about the role of the armed forces for 20 or 30 years more. We heard little in this conference about the responsibility and the needs for building better institutions, and we certainly heard little about the responsibility of countries in the designing of public security policies. In this framework, the armed forces are dealing mostly with border control in Central America. They are almost in charge of that. I'm going to let Javier to speak about Nicaragua. I'm especially referring to these other countries, El Salvador, Guatemala, and Honduras. They deal with narcotics control. They are doing that. They are protecting prisons. And they are also patrolling in urban areas. So, as you may see, they are doing almost everything in this regard. They are making prevention in Honduras. They are seizing drugs in Guatemala. And they are guarding prisons in El Salvador. It is a major role. And even if we think that the historical role of the armed forces could play a part on this, we should say that in this case, and at the moment, the role is especially related to the situation of the police institutions and the resources that countries can or cannot give to this area. In this case, this is the Central America Armed Forces Conference, which is a major mechanism existing in Central America. And as you may see, they are dealing not only with specific military tasks, but they are also working with development matters and also with natural disasters. This is the region I'm talking about. You can see the recognized border controls in this area, but along the borders there are not too much control. So the armed forces are especially working on what they call the blind passes